Okay, last time we talked about the overview with Roots Magic, and what we're going to do today is talk about how to maintain and organize information for people that we know about. Okay, so today I'm going to show you ways to find out and go to where you need to go. We talked last time about the index and how it can be valuable. So today what we're going to do is we're going to click on this name, and that will switch us from the main view to the index view. And we're going to search for somebody. We're going to look for John Fusion. Okay, and it just so happens this is the guy that I'm looking for. And what we've done is we've found some information. Okay, and so what we're going to do is try to update him with the current information that we have. Now the information I want to enter in here is from findagrave.com, and this is his tombstone information. Okay, so again, just like everything else, any information that we have is only as good as the verifiable information that we have. So what we're going to do though is take this information and put it into his personal information here so that it's updated. Okay, so I went into the personal view for John Fusion, and I switched back. Well, I say I switched back to. Let's go back to the tombstone. Okay, he was born in 1 June 25 in Smithville. Okay, so 1 June 25, but we don't have this. So what we have to do, we can tab twice and get there, and type in Smithville, select DeKalb, hit enter, and say save. Okay, and then we say keep the original place. Now, one thing that was nice about the county check, and I'll show you this just for your information. Okay, we say it's here, and oh yeah, when we try to save it, it'll go through the county check. Look at here, problems. DeKalb wasn't created until 1838, so the fact that he was born in Smithville in 25 means he couldn't have been in DeKalb County. Okay. Well, what county was it? Yeah, we don't know. So anyway, that's the only good thing about this, is it lets you know that the information that you've got may not be accurate. So we need to do some research and find out where Smithville was before 1838 so that we can make this right. But for now, we'll leave it as that. Okay, so now that we have the birth information, let's go back to the tombstone information. He died in 12 May 1863. So here's our death information. Um, 12 May 63. So we go over here, we say 12 May 1863. We tab off of it so that it saves it. Okay. And then it was in Chattanooga. Okay. And then keep the same place. All right. Now, if you look at the way this looks, I mean, everything's kind of jumbled up in here, and it's hard to really read. So we're going to do some arranging so that things look more organized. Okay. For instance, let's talk about the sort date. I told you I would tell you about the sort date before. The way this program works is that any place where there's a blank date automatically gets sorted at the bottom. Okay? So not to be confused, let's be sure we understand that the sort date has absolutely nothing to do with the real date. Okay? So I can change this sort date to move where it appears in the list just by changing the sort date. So we know he was buried because of this tombstone. Let's go down. I'll show you how you find that. Okay, here's his burial information. Okay, Chattanooga, Hamilton County, Tennessee. Okay, and that's what we have. What we don't have is a date. So what I do is I try to organize. I try to leave as much date space, if you will, between the real date and this fictional sorting date that I'm going to use in case I need to add stuff later. So I always, when I say always, when I can anyway, I put the burial date as 1998. Okay? And you'll see how this will all come to an understanding in a few minutes. Okay? The actual name of the cemetery is the Chattanooga Confederate Cemetery. And I'm going to highlight that, and I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to put it in his interment record. Now, so what we're going to do, since we don't have an interment information record in here, we go to Add, and there's interment there. So we select that. Okay, and then we go down to Place Details because it's not a real geocode place, but we want it to show up in the summary view. So I put it in the Place Details. Chattanooga Confederate Cemetery. And I give it a sort date of 1999. Well, that's not right. Cemetery sort date 1999. Okay, so I've done that, and still everything looks jumbled. So what I do is I divide my summary section into three parts. Okay, there's the person information. There's the LDS information, and there's the other information section. So what I do is I add what I call a barrier. Okay, so I go to Add, and I find Miscellaneous. Okay, I select that, and in the place I put equal signs. Okay, and then I put the sort date as 2000. Okay, and now I can add the second section of information, which is the LDS information. So I take that and I change the date for the baptisms always to 2001 for baptisms. Endowments, I always change to 2004. Sealing to parents, I always change to 2005. And the sealing to spouse, I always change to 2006 for the first one. For the first, the first spouse, and if he has more, it'd be 2007, 2008, 2009, etc. Okay, now all of a sudden things are looking a lot clearer, but I still need to add more information. So I got to put in my next barrier. So I say Add, find Miscellaneous, select it, put in equal signs, sort date of 2222. Okay, that always places that barrier at the bottom. Okay, now the information that is after that is stuff that I don't care what order it's sorted in as long as it's there. Like the reference number to find a graves, a social security number information, and stuff like that. Those are the kind of things. I don't care what order they're in, so I just put them in. So since we know that we have the tombstone information for John Fusion available to us, we're going to add a reference number. And it's just something that I picked because I don't know that I would ever use it for anything else. And I go back to the tombstone. I highlight and copy the grave memorial number. I go back here and I paste that in there and I say save. Now it's all together. Okay? I have the personal information. I have the LDS information, and I have his tombstone grave marker for Find a Graves number there. Okay? So now it is at a glance I can see his personal information without getting it all confused with everything else, and yet I've got all the information I need. Okay? So that's kind of the way I do things. Okay, let's close that. I'm going to add a fictitious child. Nope. I'm going to add just a fictitious person. And I'm going to show you some standards that I use. And remember earlier I told you not to set the code for surnames in uppercase. Here's the reason. Let's say her last name was Van Heusen. Well, if I could type it, it'd be great. Okay? You'll notice that in most places, in most cases, Van Heusen, the Van, has a reference to what family you belong to. It's kind of a weird thing, but that's kind of how it is. So you need to have cases where you have upper and lower case, such as McDonald. Okay, McDonald is a name, and it's been the practice that the C in McDonald is always lowercase. So the rest of it I put in uppercase. Now, why do I put it in uppercase? What is the big deal about uppercase? Well, people will argue with me about this. But the reason you do that is because that way, at a glance, you're sure which is the first name and which is the last name. Now you say, oh my gosh, I already know that. Well, do you? Okay? So if you're looking at a name and it says John Thomas, is John his first name and Thomas his last name? Or is John Thomas his first and middle name and there was no last name put in? Oh, well, we're not so sure. And believe me, there's lots of instances where that happens. Okay? So just to keep that in mind, you can make up your own choices, but I always type the last names in uppercase so that I know which one is really the last name. But if in certain circumstances where there's a lowercase required, like in McDonald or Van Heusen or sometimes even Fitzgerald, I can do that and still follow my own standard. Of course, when you're doing, make sure you do the sex right. Okay, a prefix is something you can put in like doctor, private, reverend. Suffix, junior, senior, stuff like that. Nickname. Now, it's important to understand that in FamilySearch.org, you cannot put nicknames in the name field. Otherwise, you won't be able to do any temple work for them. People say, well, that's how we knew him. We knew him as Red John. Well, that's fine, okay, but the name field is not where you put them. You put it here. So you could say that her nickname was Susie. That's what we knew her as. Okay. This living, and I always turn it off. I don't know why it's there, and I don't know what it's for, but that's kind of the way I do things. Anyway, that's kind of the overview of adding a person.